This Chassid are learning should have the base of English. And for Shleima. Or Chil Nasim Ben Sarah. We're going to start Ayin Chesem at base on the bottom. So when eats the size of a large date. Now, on Yom Kippur, that's considered that he ate. And the reason for that is because it doesn't say Yachila. It doesn't say don't eat. It says you should afflict your soul. It would say don't eat. I know that would tell me it needs to be a kazayas. Kazayas is the size of an olive. But it doesn't say don't eat. It says don't afflict your soul. So the Gemara tells us that it's a larger size. Papa has a question. When they said a large date, Bigari Nasa, are they referring to the date together with the pit? Because you drop a date into water and the water displacement, that would be the amount of food that you can't eat on Yom Kippur. Or are we talking about without the pit? And it's really, you have to open it up, take out the pit, and then do the water displacement, and then without the pit. Now, the problem is that the Mishnah said clearly, the words of the Mishnah were Sevasagasa, Kamaya Ukagari Nasa. So there's a little bit of an issue with the question when the Mishnah already answered it. The words of the Mishnah, it says clearly together with the pit. So Rashi explains that what his question is, when the Mishnah says to it in its pit, maybe it means it or its pit, and it's saying that its pit would be the same size as it. If you empty it out, then you would have the pit equal to the size of the flesh of the date. Maybe that's what it means. Rav Papa's question is like this. Do I have to eat the size of the date with its pit? Or the size of either flesh or pit? Right, like a lychee. Where there's a date, where there's a pit that's almost the size of the flesh. Right. Now, right. Well, if it's including the seed,
extract the pit without, if you could stack the pit somewhat together, it should displace the same amount of water.
No. Yeah, we're not talking about the. We're not. Well, okay. So 1 second. I was ignoring the hole. I'm ignoring the space there.
Yeah. So it should be the same volume.
Yeah, but what the Gemara's question when it says B'lei Gari Nasa means the amount of edible food, or the amount of non-edible food, which is equal. Now, there is a comment from the Rumesada, the Netziv. He says that what the Gemara's question is, he answers Taisha's question. Taisha has a problem with this, but he wants to learn it slightly different. He wants to learn, does it mean, you see, when it's in its original form, there's a lot of airspace there. The date and the pit and the airspace. Maybe what I need to do is open it up and then do the water displacement of both of them separately, and then I lose the airspace. Is it Kamaya Ukagari Nasa, which is a great shot? It's exactly what the Mishnah says. Kamaya Ukagari Nasa, and you just ignore the airspace. I think so. Not open up the pit. Open up the fruit and in between it and the pit. Okay. That's Rav Papa's question. By Ravashi has a question. It looks like in this Gemara, it's like question time. Anyone have a question? So Rav Ashi says, "Etzem kisa'ira." When the sages tell us that a bone of a human, the size of a barley, can cause contamination, can cause impurity. So when that touches it, now what size bone? Size of a barley. Now bikli pasa, ableki pasa. Is it pearled barley? I don't know what pearled barley. I assume without the peel on it. I don't know. But or is it with the peel or without the peel? Is it moist or is it dry? I guess that means is it fresh or dry? Now the Gemara says Rav Ashi Laimi Bailei Hadar Rav Papa. Rav Ashi wasn't bothered by Rav Papa's question. He didn't have a question because Gasidma, it says a large date. Large means large as take the largest measurement. Kol kama de gasa, as large as measurement that you'll get, which is a lenient opinion. That means on Yom Kippur, I have to be chayav on Yom Kippur. It would have to be a large date full, together with the pit, of course. Rav Papa, like me by Hadar Rav Ashi, Rav Papa didn't have Rav Ashi's question because lacha, if it's a fresh barley kernel grain, shibaylas mikri, that's called shibaylas. Shalai b'kli pasa, when it's without its husk, without its the peel, ushla mikri, then it's called ushla, or pashadli ushla. So the fact that it says sa'ira must mean that it's with the peel and it's dry. Okay, Amar Rabba, says Rabba, but it's supposed to be Rabba, Amar Rav Yehuda. We said that we're dealing with a large date. That's going to be the amount that the person will be chayav on Yom Kippur. How large is a large date? So we say, Rabbah tells us in the name of Rabbi Yehuda that it's larger than an egg. How large is an egg? But that you're not discussing. Apparently, there's an average size egg. I don't know. A little. It means a chicken egg. We're going to talk about an ostrich soon. Not an ostrich. We have that even larger. So, what is it? Dinosaur. So, here the opinion is that it's larger than the size of an egg. The date is larger than the size of an egg. It has to be like those module dates. It's large dates. It has to be. They bring it, yeah. This would be large. Very good. So Gemara's question later on the next page. Yeah. I'm issue with it. So, the Kimul Rabbanon, and the rabbis understood or established the Bahachim Yasvedaita, that's the amount that would settle a person's mind from hunger. That when you would eat that, you would not be considered afflicted anymore. It's, are you full? No, but I'm not starving. But if it's less than that, Lem Yasvedaita, then he's not settled. Yeah. Right. The affliction would go away. Okay, now the Gemara has a question. If you're going to claim that it's larger than an egg, then we're going to have a problem. It says Meisvei. The Gemara has a question. Question from Masech the Sukkah. Meisvei v'il Rav Yechon ben Zakkai litimus atavshel u'Ram Gamliel shtei kaisaves u'delishal mayim v'amru helam l'sukkah. They brought to Rav Yechon ben Zakkai to taste the food, and they also gave to Rav Gamliel 2 dates and a bucket of water. And he said, take it up to the sukkah. Or they said, take it up to the sukkah. We don't want to eat outside the sukkah. B'tani Allah, but it was taught on that. The truth is they could have eaten it outside the sukkah, but they wanted to be strict. Now, what we're seeing is that 2 dates is not required to be in the sukkah. Now, the requirement in the sukkah is the size of an egg. It's the size of a meal. You can have a meal. So what's going to happen is, 2 dates. If a date is larger than an egg, then 2 dates is larger than an egg. But we'll have to take out the pit. But 2 dates without the pits, if the date itself is larger than the egg, then 2 dates without the pit is probably also larger than the egg. Yeah. So even without the pit, that's good, what the Gemara's question is going to be. When they gave to Reb Tzadok, food that was less than a beya, so not it was less than the size of an egg. So he took it in a cloth and he ate it outside the sukkah. And he didn't say an after bracha. Now, what the Gemara there, Rashi quotes is that we have some chidushim from Reb Tzadok. First of all, he's telling us that he didn't wash his hands. He was using a cloth instead of washing his hands. He ate it outside the sukkah. Right. Or maybe it was bread. It doesn't say what they gave him. I'm not sure. Whatever the case is, it was less than an hour. We'll see in the Gemara. It could be that it means bread. And he eats it outside the sukkah without washing and he doesn't bench either. It's less than an egg size. I'm sorry. Right. But he wasn't washing his hands. He was using a cloth. We'll see. Okay. But back to the question. Well, the question was, ha kebeya. Let's say it would have been the size of an egg. Back to the Gamliel. Yeah. Right here. You want to say that Reb Tzadok was ill because he was fasting for 40 years. Maybe that's why he was doing this. If he was ill, then he wouldn't have. Then there would be no riots. It couldn't have been that it was. The person had a question here that Reb Tzadok was a kohen. And a kohen wasn't allowed to do this. Where did I see this? It's in place for a second. Yeah, whatever the case is, Reb Tzadok kohen had it. There's a problem. The heter of using a cloth instead of washing doesn't apply to a kohen. A kohen really can't do that. Anyway, that's a side discussion. Here, hakabeya by sukkah. If it would have been the size of an egg, then it would have actually been chayiv in a sukkah, not just the chumrah of Rabbi Yechon and Zakkai and Rabbi Gamliel. And if you want to say that a large date is larger than an egg, so now 2 dates without the pit. Leihavi kebeya is not a kebeya. 2 dates, obviously, it's not a kebeya. So go back to our original measurement. Would the pit, 2 dates without the pit, doesn't make the size of an egg? Apparently. He never eats the pit, but the volume. So if I would have 1 date with the pit, would that be larger than an egg? Probably not. Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah says no. You're making an assumption there that the pit, you're underestimating the size of this pit. He says, together with the pit, it actually becomes larger than an egg. It's a large pit. Amar of Papa says, this is what people say. Trey kavi de tamre, 2 baskets of dates equals chad kava de kashaisa v'sara, equals 1 basket of the pits, and you'll still have extra. as the pits are larger than the two baskets of 2 kav of dates with the pit.
You have a whole pile of it's more than a cup. More than a cup.
You would have more than a cup of pits, which means the pits are larger than the flesh. Okay.
And if I come in and start this that way, with or without the pit,
It's got to be with. Oh, really?
Those would be fitted out.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
No shit. What is it? You don't want to know about the water. That was when they just put it in.
And always you open up a bag of potato chips and there's nothing there. It's just like a little bit on the bottom,
The air bond.
but then they're selling you by the weight, so it's not. I assume it's not the. You see a bag of potato chips sitting on the bottom of the mountain pipe when you drive up, and it's like starts to swell, right? And like almost bursts as you go up the mountain. Not in Florida, but I'm saying where there's mountain. They go on the plane. Rava Amar. Rava says, "Hainatai Mishim Dahabale Peri Peri by Sukkah." Rava says the whole story here is not. There was an assumption here that was wrong. We were saying that the reason why Rav Gamliel and Rabbi Yechon Zakkai were not required to take it to the sukkah was because it was smaller than an egg. Truth is, it wasn't smaller than an egg. It was larger than an egg. Why were they not required? Because it was fruits, and fruits don't require a sukkah. So that's Meisvei. That's why he washed. Why he should have washed that was for tzaddik.
Yeah.
Was it not necessarily? Okay. Meisvei Amar Rebbe. Rebbe says Kashina Leinin Teretzel Rebbe Lazar ben Shemua. And if we would study Torah by Rabbi Lazar ben Shemua, that's interesting. Rabbi Lazar ben Shemua is the 5th student of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, Rabbi Yossi ben Talafta, Rabbi Yehuda ben Rabbi Lai, and Rabbi Lazar ben Shemua. So, when we were studying Torah by Rabbi Lazar ben Shemua, they brought in front of us figs and grapes, and we ate it outside as a achilas arai, as a temporary meal outside the sukkah. Kumar says, achilas arai in. You had to say that it was just a snack, temporary meal, a snack. You had to say that it was just a snack, but achilas keva. But if it would have been a large amount, like a real, more than a snack, then you would have been required to eat it in the sukkah. Now, apparently fruits, based on this, could be required to eat in the sukkah, depending on how much it is, if it's a snack or if it's a meal. It's a kasha on what we just said, that fruits don't need a sukkah. Kumar says, the Gemara says, Ema achalnam ki achilas reichutz l'sukkah. It doesn't mean that it depends on the amount of fruits that we're eating. What it means is that whenever you eat fruits, it's always considered like a snack, and it's outside the sukkah. Yibayah saying another pshat. Achalna machilas keva. We ate it as more than a snack. V'achalnu pas achilas arai. But we had the bread together with it as achilas arai ba'adayu chutz l'sukkah. Now, so in other words, we had a diuk over here. It says you ate it as a snack outside the sukkah. Aha. If it wasn't a snack, you would have to take it into the sukkah. That means fruits require a sukkah. Like Iba Yasem is saying, actually, you didn't eat it as a snack. You ate it as a meal, but you had bread together with it that you ate as a snack. Now, that bread that you ate as a snack, if you would eat the bread as a snack, then fine. But if you would eat the bread, the diuk that we had, as a snack, fine. But as a meal, then it would be a problem. That's referring to the bread that you had together with it. Yeah, so which means here, this is a little surprising for Lubavitchers, a small amount of bread you can have outside the sukkah, if it's a small amount. Yeah, it's only one slice of pizza. Yeah, someone told me it was by some slice of Sheva in Crown Heights. So over there was a guy that was eating, it was raining. There was a guy that was eating a slice of pizza. There's a large crowd eating a slice of pizza outside the sukkah. So the Babich tells him, why don't you go in the sukkah? He says, no. If it's raining, I don't need it in the sukkah. It's raining. It's outside also, it's raining. Okay. There may be a truth to what he was saying. We'll see in the Sukkah. Based on a Yom Tov. Okay. Blame Messiah. In a month. Blame Messiah. Let's say that we have a proof to what Rava told us that fruits don't require a sukkah. Lefikach im hishlim b'mini tagima yatsa. There's an opinion in Masech the Sukkah of Rabbi Eliezer that holds that you're required to have 14 meals on Sukkahs. 7 days of Sukkahs, each day 2 meals. You have to have, let's say you didn't have the 2 meals a day, so you have to make it up on the last day with an extra meal. In Hishlim, B'mini Tagima, if you make it up with Tagima could mean sweets, it could mean things that go along with bread. You make it up with other foods. So it says that Yatsa, that's good enough. Why doesn't it just say fruits? If fruits require sukkah, then fruits should also work. Proof is, this is a proof that fruits don't require a sukkah, and that's why eating fruits in a sukkah wouldn't be considered an extra meal in the sukkah. Kumar says, my mini tagima. What does it mean, tagima? Peiros. Actually, that means fruits. Tagima actually means fruits. So the whole raya was just gone, because exactly what you thought it wasn't saying is exactly what it is saying. What's your proof? Your proof is that it didn't say fruits. Well, it happens to be in that place. Fruits were not so common. They didn't have fresh fruits over there. Wherever it was, where they, in Russia. Yeah. My wife's grandmother says in Russia they sold an orange in the pharmacy. So when I was sick, they would get them an orange, but it wasn't in the store. It was, they had to go to the pharmacy. Rav Zvid says, "Keiseves agasa shamro chaser mikabeya." Rav Zvid is arguing on Rabbah. Rabbah in the name of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbah in the name of Rabbi Yehuda said that a Keiseves agasa, a large date, is larger than an egg. Rav Zvid says a large date is smaller than an egg. B'tanan, he has a proof. Bishamai says, now we're jumping around Shas. Bishamai says, Sa'ar b'kazayas v'chametz b'keiseves. There's sourdough, Sa'ar, that's easy to remember. Sa'ar, sourdough. And chametz. Now, it says in the Torah that you're not allowed to have sourdough and you're not allowed to have chametz. It says both. Now, the fact that it says both, the Gemara is going to tell us, means that there's two different measurements for each one. How much sourdough is forbidden to own and how much chametz. Chametz is edible. Sourdough is not really edible, but it makes everything else leaven. So Beishamai says Sa'ar is a kazayas, which is a small amount. And chametz is a kaiseves, which is a larger amount. We deliberated on this. My time of the Beishamai, what's the reason for Beishamai? Nichtav rachmana chametz v'lei ba'isar. If it would just say that I can't have chametz, then it wouldn't have to say that I can't have sourdough. V'na amina, and I would say, ma chametz shein chimutz kasha. If chametz, which is not so leavened, so also because is forbidden at a kazayas, so chimutz kasha like kolshkin, so which is very leavened, it actually leavens everything else. So it's like yeast, So then, for sure it should be Yasser with the Kazayas. The fact that it doesn't just rely on that, and it actually says a specific pasuk that you can't have Sa'ar. Limdalach, it's coming to teach you Shur Shalzeh like a Shur Shalzeh, that they have different measurements. And Sa'ar Bekazayas v'chametz Bekakeseves. Sa'ar, sourdough, is olive size, and chametz is the size of a date. Now, if a date is larger than an egg, michti. So what's going on? We don't know that it's actually a date. Beishamai just said that we know it's not a kazayas because it's got to have a different measurement because the Torah divided it up. So we say, well, we would move it up one notch. Now, if the next notch is an egg, so why are you jumping to a kesevas? Move it up one notch to kabeya. Listen to kabeya. That's a raya that obviously the one notch up from a kazayas is a kesevas, which is smaller than a kabeya. It's a raya to Rav Tzvi. It's more than a kazayas, less than a kabeya. Gemara says, and more than that, even if you say it's equal, it should say kabeya. This is what Moshe said before. That kabeya is a much more common measurement than if it's more standard. So if it's the same size, use the standard. Use the one that everyone uses. Allah shmamina kesevas b'chusim kabeya is the proof that a date is smaller than an egg, and that's why we're using the date. Where it says, how do you know this is a good proof? Bimai. Dilma laila me'malach kesevas hagasa shamar yisem kabeya hastama kabeya. On Yom Kippur it says a kesevas hagasa, a large date. By the chametz it says kesevas. Maybe kesevas is smaller than an egg. Kesevas hagasa is larger than an egg. Gasa means large. So this is a date and a large date. The large date is larger than an egg. Rav Zid is saying a large date is smaller, but that he has no proof for because it didn't say a large date, it just said a regular date. Well, Kazayas, yeah. Oh, Kazayas. Oh. Yeah. Right.
According to this,
Nami, right. Right. Yeah, so before 4 stages. Kazayas, an olive, a date, an egg, and a large date. Vinami kiadadineno. And the truth is, you know what? Even if it's equal, chadaminaya naka. Even if you want to say it's equal, it could be that it chose the date over the egg. You know why? Because this is the commentary speak out. What was the measurement for Sa'ar? Kazayas, an olive. That's one of the fruits of Eretz Yisrael. Maybe we want to be consistent and say that what's the shear of chametz, the date, which is another fruit, rather than jump to an egg. Maybe. Elamehacha, we have another proof. Okay, so that was no proof because we didn't say clearly a large date. Elamehacha, ad kama mizamna. When can you say a birkas hamazon in a group? Ad kazayas. We have to have an olive size together. Divrei Meir, that's Rav Meir's opinion. Rabbi Yehuda Emrat Kabeya says that they needed to have an egg, size of an egg of bread. The Maikamiflagi, what's the machlekes? Rav Meir savar b'achalta zu achila. The savata zu shtiya. Rav Meir holds that when it says b'achalta, that means you have to eat. And how much? That would be a kazayas. The savata, you should need to be satisfied. That means you need to drink. And v'achila b'kazayas. So therefore, he holds that the extra word v'savata, be satisfied, is coming to tell me that you need to drink. No, it's not oig, because it's vih.
He's combining.
According to Reb Meir,
He's combining the eating and drinking.
if I eat a meal but I don't have anything to drink there, then it's not a meal. I don't bench. Oh, how much drinking? That, yeah, v'achalta you eat, v'savata you drink, and then you bench. Well, no, achalta achila is always a kazayas. Shtia also has a shear that we have to see today. Yeah. No benching. No benching. Going to Reb Meir. Yeah. Yeah, that's his opinion. Oh, that's a good question. What about ice cream? If it melts. What about an egg? Is an egg eating or drinking? Right. A smoothie. No. Right. Right.
We come back to
I assume. Yeah. Okay. Rabbi Yehuda Savar, v'achalta v'savata. He puts it together. He reads it different. Achila sheish basviya. It doesn't mean drinking. It means the type of eating that is satisfying, that fills a person up, that makes a person satiated. How much is this? Zakabeya. That's the size of an egg. So if it would have said achila, then it would have been a kazalas. But the sabata, I have to have more than that because I have to be full. Now, if you say that a date, a large date, is larger than an egg, one second. What's going on? Why on Yom Kippur was the measurement the size of a date? Because we're looking for a measurement that would take away a person's hunger. Now, that's going to be before he gets full. If a person gets full from an egg, so he gets rid of his hunger after he's full and eats more, he gets rid of his hunger before he was full. So it must be a date is less than an egg. As an egg would fill him up. Even kaseva sagat. But the measurement has to be less than what's satiating. Alalav shma mina kaseva sagat sham pachas mikabeya. Kabeya maspa and kasevas nias v'daita. An egg would fill him up, and a date would just satisfy his mind that he's not suffering. He's not starving. Okay. Yeah. And the students in school, in yeshiva, very dramatic. They're starving, they're exhausted, they're freezing. There's no like anywhere in the middle. It's on like the most extreme. Right. Go read a piece of a date. It would be a date. Yeah, according to Rav Papa, I would have to give him a little bit more than a date. It would have to be a date and a half, probably. Maybe 2 dates, because I have to take the size of the pit, depending on what the answer to Rav Papa. Okay, Tanya. Rabbi Yomer. Kol ashirim kulam b'kazayas chutz mit masaychlin shashina kasav b'mashman v'shina chacham b'shirin. All measurements in the Torah are a kazayas. Anything where it says achila, it's a kazayas, except for Tumas Eichlin. Tumas Eichlin is food that becomes tamei. That is going to be larger than a kazayas. And the reason is because it doesn't say the regular expression that the Torah says. We'll see soon in the Gemara. And we say that if it doesn't have the regular expression, then it also has a different size. And the proof is Yom Kippur, because Yom Kippur also, it doesn't use the same expression. It says, Veinisem. And that has a different measurement. So too, by Timaseifman would have a different measurement. So let me click on I don't know why they have to put this pasuk, but that's what they do. That's the name of something else. They quote the pasuk from Vayikra. So, just like on Yom Kippur uses a different expression, so too, and it has a different measurement than regular halachas of eating, so too by Timasaycha. My Rayal Davar Yom Kippurim, what does it mean that there's a proof of this is Yom Kippur? The Imei Hasam, because if it would just have the expression that it says by Timasaycha, which we didn't learn yet, but Havamina Orcha de Krahu, I would say that that's a normal expression. So therefore it says Yom Kippur to tell me that Yom Kippur, it's clearly not a regular expression of don't eat. It says, so anyone that's not afflicted. So, and that tells me that that's a change in measurement as well in the shear. So too over here, where it uses an abnormal expression, it's going to be a change in measurement. And as I wouldn't have recognized that that's really an abnormal expression, I would have thought that that's a normal expression. Now that I have an abnormal expression, and it's a change, so it tells me that this is also. Well, where did we get that from? What's the source? We were all discussing this. We never mentioned what it actually says. So Tumas Seichlin, food that becomes tamei, it needs to be the size of an egg to this means to contract the tumah or it means to transfer the tumah. But where do we know this from? That needs to be the size of the egg. Amar Rabavo, Amar Rabbi Lazar, the Amar Kra. Rabavo says the name of Rabbi Lazar, we have a pasuk. We'll see soon that Rabavo is going to have his own source. But meanwhile, he's quoting Rabbi Lazar. From all food that he will eat. Now, it doesn't have to say asher yeyachal that he would eat. You could just say kala eichel, any food, and that would tell me a kazayas. Why does it say eichel asher yeyachal? That's coming to tell me food that comes from something else that would be eaten. Eichel haba machmas eichel. What is food that comes from food? It's talking about an egg that comes from a chicken. It means that it needs to be the size of an egg. Maybe it means a goat. It comes from another goat. It says mechus shchita. That can't be, because that's not food until it's shechted. We're talking about that right when it comes, it's already edible. So, where's Dr. Stein? Ve'ema ben pekua. Let's say a ben pekua doesn't need shchita. Ben pekua is the mother's shechted. It has the fetus inside, and you can eat the fetus without shchita. The Gemara says tongue kriya, but you still have to remove the blood. You have to tear it open to let the blood. You can't eat blood, so it's still not considered edible until you remove the blood. Ve'ima beitzis ba'yochni. How do you know that we're talking about the egg of a chicken, and it's the size of an egg? Maybe it's the egg of this monster creature called Bar-Yuchni, which is possibly. It says that when it laid this Bar-Yuchni laid an egg, it laid it into the sea. It caused a tsunami that 60 islands, 60 cities got flooded. The sea level rose because of this egg. So, yeah. What is that? Yeah. Okay. So maybe it's that. So when the Gemara does this, the Gemara has an expression that you can't use those examples because tefasta meruba like tefasta mod tefasta. Whenever we're looking for something, you always choose the smallest amount. Because the example is, if you grab too much, then you don't grab. If you grab a little, then you grab. Right.
60 cities could eat it. It's still
Right. So what we're saying is that we don't know the size of the egg, but it's probably the smallest size that you can say, because that would be what we can't get smaller than. But we're asked straight away. So then, if that's the case, then why don't you take the size of a little bird, a finch, or something, which is very small, a hummingbird? Okay, the Gemara doesn't answer that. Rabavo Didei Amar. Oh yeah, it would only be a kosher bird. I don't know about hummingbirds. I'm not there. Yeah, kosher.
it has to be a pretty quick. It's not
Right. Right. We have to have the tradition. Basically, don't go eat a hummingbird, even if you can find them. It says, Rabbi says he has a different source. Before he was quoting Rabbi Lazar, really has a different source. He says, food that you can eat at one time. How much is that? Basically, you can't swallow more than an egg. The throat can't swallow more than an egg. So we're dealing with the size of an egg. That's his source. Well, he's talking about, it doesn't have to do with food that comes from other food. He says food that could be eaten in one shot, that he measures that should be about the size of an egg, would be the largest pill that someone could swallow. Rabbi Lazar says, someone eats chalev nowadays. You shouldn't write down that he ate chalev. You should write down how much chalev he ate. Because maybe a bezdin's going to come, change the shear, and then he needs to know how much he ate if he's really high on the carbon. So don't just say, so the Gemara says, "My yabra b'shir." What does it mean? It actually says increase the shear. What does it mean increase the shear? Does it mean that they're going to make the shear smaller? He said, I ate a kazayas. I have to bring a carbon. You know what? He actually ate 2 kazasim because you thought a kazayas olive was those large olives or those medium-sized olives. It turns out it's a smaller olive that they meant, a little olive. And now he ate 2 kazasim. So Vatanya, Shelay Sasena Bishkaga Vasham, Hashav Midyas maybe carbon al Shigasai, Leshav Midyas maybe carbon al Shigasai. There's a problem with this. And because when he found out what he ate, at the time that he finds out what he ate, the measurement for eating was a larger olive. So if you would tell him, would you eat it again? He would say no, because it was, but no, he ate less than a large olive. He ate less than an olive. He ate less than an olive size. But later on, the Bezdin's going to say that that's considered a shear. So at the time that he finds out, though, it was less than a shear. So he wasn't really shav midiyasai because he doesn't know what the Bezdin's going to do later. So that's going to affect his obligation to bring a carbon. If someone would eat it again, that's not considered that he becomes obligated in a carbon. Rather, let's do it exactly the opposite. The reason why he needs to write down the measurement of what he ate is because he wouldn't be high of a carbon until he eats a much larger olive than what he ate. So he doesn't know that. He's going to end up bringing a carbon. And the truth is, he ate less than a share. How were you learning this before? Which we're not learning anymore, but how are we learning this before? That you would be chayev on a smaller amount, which is what he ate. He ate less than a shear. But later on, they're going to change it. But it says yarbe b'shirim, they increase the shear. They're not increasing the shear, they're decreasing the shear. They're making you chayev for something less. Gemara explains, Shema yarbe b'karbanas mach b'shirim. It doesn't mean increase the shear. It means increase the amount of karbanos that you have to bring because of decreasing the share. Okay. No, we only said that he's not retroactively chayav, he's retroactively exempt. Yeah. Well, he's not designating the carbon. When the Beis Hamikdash is rebuilt, the Beis Din is going to tell him that you don't really need to bring a carbon because we've decided that the size is different. Amar Rabbi Yechanan, Shiurim v'Einshem Malach L'Moshe Misina. Rabbi Yechanan says that the measurements and punishments are all a tradition from Moshe. The Gemara says, 1 second. Tradition from Moshe means that you don't have a pasuk for it. Einshem michtav ksive. But I do have something for punishments. It says so in the Torah. It says kares, katas. This is nice because Rabbi Yechanan actually holds that even if you, Rabbi Yechanan holds chatzi shears asim in the Torah. So, right? Rish Lakish said that. He said, if you eat less than a shear, the smallest amount, you're still a prohibition. But at what point does the person have the punishment? That's only if he eats more than that. Tanya Nami, if he eats the size of whatever the halacha Moshe Misina is for the shear. Tanya Nami Hachi, it's also a brisa that says Shiurim shel Einshem halacha Moshe Misina. The measurement of Einshem is halacha Moshe Misina. The measurements. Achirim Aimrim Besdina shel Yaibetz Tiknum. Others say that it was the Beis Din of Yaibetz. Yaibetz is another name for Asniel ben Knaz. It was the first of the judges, right? It was Yeshua, and then Shaftim. And the Shaftim starts with Asniel ben Knaz. He was the first one. What do they call it? I forget why. Yeah, that was his. I forget where that Gemara was. He's called Yaibetz in the pasuk. Ayvaksiv. 1 second. Ela mitzvah shein never shayla chadash davar miyata. That a navi is not allowed to make any new halachas. So what he's saying that that it was a Beis Din of Yaibetz that established these halachas. Can't make new halachas. So it's ela shachar mechazer v'yastim. It means that they forgot him and then they got them back. And actually, the Gemara tells us. Get to it was Menachos, I think. The Gemara tells us that during Avela Shel Moshe, they forgot 3,000 halachas in the morning period, and Asniel ben Knaz brought them back with his lumdus. He brought it back just by logic. No, forgot. Okay, I guess we have to leave it here.
Yom Tov.
And so,
Mitzvot. Tovot.